Another week, another new EV from a company no one's ever heard of. The twist this time is it's not from China. Aehra Automobili is based in Milan, the city in northern Italy that gave the world car makers like Alfa Romeo and Carrozzeria like Touring, each responsible for some of the most beautiful and desirable automobiles ever built. And one look at the 2025 Aehra 01 all-electric SUV reveals an EV with more than a dash of Milanese flair. The SUV, it has no model name, but since we know more vehicles are coming, we'll label it 014 now, has a cab-forward profile that's even more extreme than that of the Mercedes-Benz EQS and EQE, a profile defined by a clean arc that stretches from the leading edge of the hood to the tip of the trunk. But unlike both Benzes, the pugnacious Aehra doesn't resemble an aeroblob. There's a tension in its surfacing and stance that makes it look much more muscular and athletic. From the awkwardly apparent B-pillar forward, it's pure supercar. Towards the rear it swoops like a GT. A mix of Alfa, Lambo, Ital design, and Genesis. That's no surprise, perhaps, given the Aehra. Its pronounced Aehra design team is headed by Italians Filippo Perini and Alessandro Serra, who both worked at Alfa Romeo and Lamborghini before moving to Ital design and then to the European design studio for Genesis. The SUV is the first of two EVs under development at Aehra. A sedan will be unveiled in February next year, and the company says first deliveries of both models will begin in the second half of 2025, less than 3 years from now. That sounds an impossible timeline given that at this stage the Aehra SUV exists only as the full-scale model seen here. There are no running prototypes, and no look at the interior just yet. The company doesn't have a chief engineer and hasn't even decided on the suppliers of key components such as e-motors and battery packs, nor even where its vehicles will be built. Like an iPhone, company founder Hazim Nada remains unfazed. He says the auto industry's rapidly accelerating switch to electrification means there's an opportunity for a startup automaker unburdened by OEM legacy costs and investments to change the way cars are built. Aehra will not construct a factory. It will not make any of the parts used in its vehicles and plans to outsource even the final assembly process to a third party, much like Fisker has done with its Ocean EV, which is being assembled alongside a bevy of other vehicle lines by Magnaster in Austria. It's the Apple model of outsourcing production. Like Apple, which has all its products made by third parties, Aehra will own the intellectual property behind its vehicles, not the means to produce them or their key components. We think that the electric powertrain is leading into that direction, says Nada. What categorizes or characterizes a vehicle is the design, the way the user interfaces with it, the emotions it expresses, and the functionalities it allows the end user. The other elements come from components that are becoming commodities. Nada, an Italian-born mathematician and physicist turned commodities trader, knows the traditional auto industry model requires eye-watering capital investments. Aside from the costs of designing, engineering and developing a new vehicle, establishing a car factory from the ground up easily costs at least $1.3 billion if not far more, and it takes 2 to 3 years before it's ready to produce a single vehicle. But Nada believes the Apple model will enable his auto company to put 2 vehicles on the market by late 2025 for a total capital expenditure of just $750 million, including all development costs. Guys, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive all that is new and exclusive in the automotive world. Stamped carbon and aluminum. Both the Aehra SUV and sedan will be built around a carbon fiber monocoque with aluminum subframes bolted front and rear to support the e-motors and suspension, and to act as crash structures. That's standard practice among supercars these days, but the key difference here is the Aehra's monocoque will be made from sheet molded carbon fiber, SMC, basically carbon fiber that is shaped under pressure, like stamped steel or aluminum, rather than laid by hand over a form and cured in an autoclave. The body panels will also be SMC. The SUV's body in white will thus weigh less than 400 pounds, says Nada, which will be instrumental in getting the vehicle to meeting its target weight of less than 4,400 pounds. As the exterior panels will arrive from suppliers fully painted, Nada says the total investment in the SUV's body in white for tooling and painting will be just $60 million. And the same goes for the sedan. The SUV will be all-wheel drive, with either 2 or 3 e-motors, and a total system output of 750 to 800 horsepower. No decision has yet been made on who will supply the e-motors, inverters, and other pieces of the electric powertrain. However, Aehra's purchasing chief, former Ferrari exec Stefano Mazzetti, confirms the electrical architecture will be 800 volts, and that the battery pack is likely to be a 120 kilowatt-hour unit from a Chinese supplier. Low weight, good aerodynamics, and a big battery should deliver a near 500-mile range, Mazzetti says. The SUV has a 120.8-inch wheelbase, and the extreme cab-forward design means room aboard for 4 NBA players, says design chief Filippo Perini. Details of the interior are being kept under wraps until the new year, however. First Fisker, now the future? From Preston Tucker to John DeLorean to Malcolm Bricklin, the history of the automobile is littered with entrepreneurs who dreamed of making it big in the auto business. This project is not a dreamer's project, insists Hazim Nada, even though he's basically writing the checks to pay the bills. He's convinced there's an opportunity for a luxury EV with Italian design flair to grab a piece of the market before the traditional European luxury brands, British, German and Italian, complete their transition to EV powertrains. Is the iPhone model farming out production to a third party, the future of the auto industry? Nada says Aehra plans to sell up to 25,000 SUVs and 25,000 sedans a year, each priced between $160,000 and $180,000, and that investors are showing interest in the idea with a recently opened initial funding round expected to raise $50 million by January.